200 kilometers into the Arctic Circle, way up in northern Finland, we're cutting through a sea of white that stands out in stark contrast to the pitch black darkness that's around us. And that's because the sun hasn't come up yet and it's already 8:30 a.m. The cars are covered in snow, icicles hang off the bumpers, and we're driving to a frozen lake. Just as we get there, the sun comes up, but the temperature is still a very, very frozen minus 21 degrees.
But I'm all warmed up on adrenaline because this is what I'm doing. This is the Audi Ice Drive, and we're having loads of fun learning how to get the car sideways and get it back in control.
The Audi Ice Drive in Munio, Finland happens annually, and this is a trip to put on your bucket list. Over 800 people do this program every year in groups of about 20 or so. Over 2.5 days, you get to let the little kid in you out again on a massive, slippery as soap playground. There's driving, chucking the car around, testing your limits, and learning. But most of all, it's having the max fun you can imagine yourself having behind the wheel of a car.
Tail out fun!
The program starts with a briefing on how to really drive on ice, a thing we're quite unused to. After the training session, there are a few demo sessions by the instructor who makes it look all too easy. And trust me, while the lessons seem easy enough, there are a lot of things that are actually counterintuitive when you're in the driver's seat. First off, switch off the ESC completely. Tractionless surface and no electronic nannies, just pure car control is what we're here to learn.
Learning to get the hang of this, just sliding around on ice. You know, it looks a lot easier, especially when the instructor's behind the wheel. He just makes it all seem so simple. Carry the speed through drift. Yeah. Tail out fun. Nothing quite like it.
The beginning is all about letting the excitement wear down a bit, because driving on ice is a game of patience. The trick is to start slow, really slow, and then build up your speed as you get to learn the track, your limits, and the limits of traction.
And you know, the thing about driving in snow, especially something like this, is it's hard to tell where I'm going and where the track is because everything is white all around me. Just gotta follow these tire marks.
The program starts you off with smaller tracks, building up to larger, faster ones over 2 days. And every time you get to a new track, it's a learning all over again because it's hard to tell where the boundaries are and everything looks like a sea of white.
Getting the tail out a bit, getting it back in control. That's the idea, and trying to learn how to drift. It's a lot of playing with the throttle, playing with the steering wheel, and learning to find that balance. Easier said than done, believe me. So the art of driving on ice is learning to keep all your movements really gentle and just learning to feather that throttle, learning where you get the balance back, and having that courage of knowing that if I put my foot on the throttle right now, I'm going to bring the car back and not go into a slide. So yeah, it's learning to find your limits, which is what I'm doing at this point.
The instructors are watching us constantly and monitoring us, and they also get into the car with you when you want them to give you a one-on-one session. And that is worth its weight in gold. The instructor shows me exactly where I'm going wrong. Intuition makes you turn the steering wheel a lot when you see a sharp turn coming, but the super slippery surface requires gentleness. You have to be gentle with the steering. A small turn in, lift off the gas, allow the tail to start swinging out, and then harder on the gas to get it more sideways. And then I'm taught the wonderful art of unwinding the steering when it seems counterintuitive. You have to unwind just a little to shift the balance and get the control back, and then on the power again. Once you get the hang of it and the confidence to do it enough, and you link a few corners, it is like attaining nirvana. The problem is you tend to get overconfident pretty easily too. And once you do, you're in the snowbank, and only the plow can get you out. Needless to say, we all had a few excursions into the snowbank in our over-enthusiasm. But at the end of the day, we learned a lot. In this region, the sun sets at 4 p.m. And like errant school kids, we were all asking for one last round of this wonderful playground. And we literally had to be dragged off.
Well, it's fantastic. It's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of experience. If you get a chance to have it, grab it with both hands and do it, because it's utmost fun. It's like bucket loads of fun. I think you build your confidence in driving, you build your skills as a driver. You realize that you can control a car instead of letting the car control you, and I think that's what you pretty much learn here.
And the experience is not only about driving. The Audi package includes stay, food, and a whole northern experience. A night out on a snowmobile which makes for a memorable ride through the icy landscape. A hearty local cooked meal, and then the icing on the cake, if you're lucky that is, a chance to see the northern lights. And we got lucky. That was a major bucket list tick accomplished. But the excitement for day 2 was already bubbling.
So how can you transfer what you learn here, which is on ice and slippery, how can you transfer that knowledge to when you drive at home?
Well, luckily we don't have such crazy conditions, but we do have a monsoon and a lot of wet. And I think what I've learned here is how to control the car when it's going into a slide, right? So learning to measure the throttle, measure the steering, balance it, shift the weight balance of the car around to get your car back on track again. And I think that's what we pretty much learned here, that balancing the weight of the car is pretty critical.
By day 2, we were driving a lot quicker and cleaner, with less excursions into the snow and learning to use the balance of the car just to get the tail out enough to power on and dance through the corners. We drove our hearts out, mastering the art of drifting and having a total blast. The program ended with a fun final time session which had 20 of us journalists behave like competitive school children.
Okay, so I've spent pretty much 2 days driving on ice, and I think I've become a better driver. But there's some real critical lessons to learn. I mean, of course, there are the basic things like having the right set of tires on ice. And of course, the simple rules that one knows of driving slow in a corner and fast out. The fun on ice is really having to switch that ESC off so you get to drift a little bit, and then keeping all your movements gentle and measured. No overcorrecting really too quickly, no harsh braking, no harsh accelerating. It's all about feathering the pedal and being very gentle with the accelerator. And that's what I've learned over these 2 days, to be patient. Because driving on ice is all about patience. Patience for waiting the tail to come out and then going around the corner and then accelerating through. So I hope I've become a better driver for it, but it's been hell of a lot fun. And the good news is, if you're an Audi owner, you can do this too.